Hi, everybody. Welcome again to another episode of the ShopNotes Podcast. This is episode 100. Cue the applause and the fireworks and the parade. I'm your host, Phil Huber. I'm joined, as always, by Logan and John, since we have been from episode number 1. On today's show, we're going to talk about Freaky Friday Woodworking and what's the point. So, hope you enjoy today's episode.
This episode of the ShopNotes Podcast is brought to you by Woodsmith Magazine. Woodsmith Magazine has been the trusted source for all your woodworking information for over 40 years. From tips and techniques to furniture projects to shop projects, you'll find it all at Woodsmith Magazine. Subscribe today at woodsmith.com.
All right. First off, congratulations, everybody, on making it to 100.
Yay. I think the only reason we've made it to 100 is because it's like a public access station where nobody can really stop us. You know, nobody can flip off the switch.
Right.
And it's one of those rage things. It's like we hate doing it so much that you just can't give in and stop.
Yeah,
Right.
we're that stubborn.
Yeah.
We're going to show the haters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So, nicely done.
Was it though?
And it's not like we killed ourselves to do it either, because we've taken vacations. We've had our breaks.
that's true. That is true. So, slow and steady.
You know who
Right.
the real hero is?
Anybody who's kept with us since episode 1?
No, they're just dumb. Nate Gruca is our real hero.
Oh, yeah.
He has to put up with this. Everybody else, they all have a choice. They can stop listening whenever they want.
Right.
So if people are like, screw you guys, they can see themselves out.
Yep. He's
Poor
had to
Nate,
deal
though.
with
Yeah.
editing
Nate-
all the podcasts and all the video edition stuff, videos, and
We should have Nate on the
And-
podcast sometime.
We should. That would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Nate does 1,000 things around here behind the scenes and would hate to be in the limelight here. And I'm sure that he is
Gonna edit this out.
probably going to edit all of this out. However, I do want to give a shout out to Nate because he helped us get started on the podcast in terms of logistics and setting things up way back from when we were doing this in person and around the workbench trying to get microphones set up, and then when we switched to trying to do it over Teams or Skype or whatever, and now through the software Riverside that we're working with right now. So
yeah, we've gone through a lot of software and hardware changes over the 100 episodes. And
Yeah.
for a while, though, it seemed like there was something different every week that was, like, broken.
Yeah.
And he just dealt
like
with it.
not being close enough to the microphone, or
Yeah. Yep.
somebody's microphone getting unplugged in the middle of the thing, or
Video and audio not syncing, or people freezing up, or patching 3 feeds together.
Well,
Pretty
and
amazing.
to be fair, I think
he also has
That-
to work with us.
yeah. Well, and I think that, I mean, not to discount, because Nate he puts up a lot of crap from us, but this software's also gotten a little bit better. Like, I think so many people started doing this, exactly what we're doing, over the last year and a half, 2 years, that I think the Riverside software we use, they're adding stuff. I mean, come on, they added all these, like, awesome, like, fees. So, you know,
I think they listen to our podcast and then, like,
Probably.
hey, these guys
Like,
need some laugh
yeah,
tracks
any
and
kind
rim
of-
shots.
Yeah, you guys need
Yeah.
something. So,
Yeah.
but
So one of the things that I would like to discuss with you guys today, and it's come up, one of the items came up in my own shop, and then one was something that we're filming an episode this week for season 16, and it came up in there. And for lack of a better or more creative title, it's I'm calling it, like, what's the point? And
I asked myself the whole
here's-
time.
Right. Here's where I'm going with it. 1/4-inch Forstner bit, like, what's it good for? Because if you try to drill a deep hole, like if you were roughing out a mortise with a 1/4-inch Forstner bit, you are picking chips out of that thing every
Yeah.
3/16 of an inch down that you go.
You just got to power through.
Yeah.
Just keep
You just got to
hogging away.
auger it.
Just burnish the hole.
Yeah.
Smoke it.
Because, I mean,
Yeah.
you could just point at a 1/4 inch Forstner bit and it clogs up.
Yeah.
You can just go 16th inches at a time. Just go.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't know. And it's pretty much any Forstner bit that I've used, any brand. So I would challenge anybody out there that has a favorite Forstner bit brand or design or whatever that they're going with. I just have not. So unless you're making super shallow recesses for, I don't know, hardware or something on a project, I just don't know what the point of a 1/4 inch Forstner bit, other than to feel like you have the full set.
So I will say, flat bottom holes. That's the only thing it does better than because the brad point bit leaves that hump in the center.
Yeah, I can see
Because
that.
those spurs and then the center point, and it leaves that kind of donut shaped hump.
Yeah,
A twist bit gives you that concave hole.
right.
Forstner bit at least will be fairly flat bottomed.
Yeah,
So,
but at
what expense?
right, not only that, but what's your application where in a 1/4 inch you need that as a flat bottom? You know what I'm saying?
Don't put me on the spot. I don't know.
That's why I'm saying.
That's
What's
the only.
the
I mean,
point?
that's the only thing I can come up with.
Yeah.
So can we come up with some sort of Forstner bit with a spiral flute on it, or some sort of chip ejection technology?
Maybe.
I hear
It's out
ShopNotes
there.
Magazine's going to do some metalworking.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Or is there a good way to grind a brad point bit to give you a flat bottom?
That's
so
true.
then it's kind of like,
Why?
kind of takes the point of the brad point
It does.
yeah.
away.
So, side note here, while
Okay.
we're just talking about Forstner bits, okay? I did something the other day that I don't think I've ever done before. And it worked so stupidly well that I'm going to do it again. I dug through Steve Johnson's drawer and found I needed a 2.5 inch Forstner bit. And I found one. There was one in take that back. It wasn't in Steve Johnson's drawer. I looked in his. It wasn't in his. It was back at the lathe. And I think it was one that Dylan had bought to do something with a project. Whether it was like it was the coffee cup. It was the turned wood coffee cup. But it was smoked. And I think it was like one of those like Chinesium Forstner bits off of Amazon that was like the 2.5 inch Forstner bit was like $7 after shipping.
Right.
You know it's bad.
Yeah.
But I needed it to define holes on this charcoal pull-out on this grill cart. And I'm like, I want this to be fairly sharp. I threw it in the vise, and I hand sharpened that Forstner bit with a triangle file that we had, because it had the little sawtooth cutters.
Oh, yeah.
It worked unbelievably well. I
Yeah.
was so happy with how that worked. Now, I have auger files at home for like my hand auger bits.
Yeah, brace and bit. Yeah.
Yep. But I've never tried it with the Forstner bit, and I was mighty impressed.
Yeah, I've
So-
sharpened a few Forstner bits, and it's amazing how well they work
Yeah.
after that. You know, you can use the diamond paddles on the ramps.
Yep.
On the flat part of the ramps, and then
Yeah.
either I think we had some diamond files around here too.
Yeah. Well, this one was big enough that I could actually use that triangle file for everything.
Oh, yeah.
Now, yeah, a diamond paddle would probably be better. It's a little finer. It'll get a little sharper.
Yeah.
But I figure, I sharpen my chainsaw with a file. He's sharpened a Forstner bit with a
Right.
file.
There you go.
Now, I will say, I don't know how well it would work to try to sharpen, let's say, like one of the Fisk, the wave edge cutters. That would be a little harder. You might have to get in there with like a Dremel or something and sharpen the inside face of them. But
Yeah.
it worked well. I was
Nice.
happy. So maybe that's what you need with your 1/4 inch bit. Maybe you just need to file the opening bigger in the Forstner.
Maybe. I don't know.
That sounds like a no.
I don't. It's so teeny tiny,
know,
that
it
little
is.
ramp on there, that I just
know.
don't know what. On a related note, the project that we're building is a Craftsman style sideboard.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you say Craftsman, you know that there are 9,000 mortise and tenon joints on there. So we were routing a groove yesterday and did it with a plunge router and a handheld. And John automatically grabbed a spiral bit for it, which is the right choice, which makes me, on a related note, what's the point of a standard 1/4 inch straight bit?
It's cheaper.
Yeah.
Carbide. I mean, do they make carbide edged spiral bits? I mean, I'm sure
yeah.
there's like carbide spiral bits.
Yeah, they're solid carbide.
Yeah, I would think they'd be a little brittle, but maybe not. But yeah,
Did they just work
I know.
6,000 times better?
I know.
And they don't burn.
It's for the people that don't know about spiral bits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they have to be cheaper to make, right? Like,
Yeah.
There's no
I'm not-
machining involved.
Right.
Right. And I don't.
It's like, why do they have cheap cars? Because, some people just don't want to spend money.
Yeah. And I get that. That's fair. Not everybody. But the price differential between a solid carbide 1/4 inch spiral bit and a regular 1/4 inch straight bit, that premium can't be that high.
Right.
I mean, now, yeah, you can find
To the Googles.
the Harbor Freight 1/4 inch bit that's made out of, I don't know, an aluminum alloy, and then you just find your Onsrud or whatever premium bit, then yes, there's going to be a huge difference. But like, what's a Freud 1/4 inch straight bit versus a solid carbide spiral bit from Freud or CMT or whatever?
So here's a white side 1/4 inch spiral bit.
Okay.
It's carbide,
All right.
1 inch cutting length, $20.
Okay.
The straight bit from a Manitool carbide,
Okay.
$16.50.
And I would call both of those, in terms of quality, I would say that they're
similar.
pretty comparable.
Yeah.
Yep. So
So spend the extra $350.
yes.
Yeah.
People.
Now you can get a Wolf Ride 4-piece straight cut bit for $12.
How much for the Menards Tool Shop brand straight bit set?
Free after rebate, John.
Yes. There's the value right there.
Yes.
Right, because you're
And
using that, you're just rolling over your savings into
Yep.
like a case of Spreckers is what
Yes.
you're
Yep.
doing.
Yep.
It's like the new cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Yes.
That and Kohl's Cash. That's where I got all my money tied up right now, is in Kohl's Cash.
Full cash, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really investment grade when you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny.
So anyway, I would love to hear from viewers, listeners, on their what's the point? Something that in your shop, just like, why does this thing exist? And it could be anything woodworking related.
Okay, so I have a question,
All right.
or I have a what's the point?
All right.
What's the point of the super complex Lee or Craftsman style dovetail jigs when something like the Keller Dovetail Jig works just as well, and it's as stupid simple as you can get?
Right.
What's the point? I
Marketing.
I get the adjustability. Like, you can do variable space dovetails. Whoever does it, you generally just do straight through dovetail. I mean, half blinds, I guess.
Yeah, I think that would probably be the big thing, is if you wanted to do...
Yeah.
If you were in a situation where you're going to do half-blind dovetails on drawers, and that's kind of your MO, is that, like, RIP Porter Cable, but their jig, you just kind of, like we have it here, is set up for drawers,
Yep.
and then that's really all you're using it for,
Yeah.
in spite of its multi-functionality.
Yeah. So, and the whole reason I say this, I was over at my buddy Greg's shop helping him with the cabinet this weekend, And last time I was over, he's like, "Hey, can you help me set up this Craftsman Dovetail Jig to do these drawers?" And I'm like, I looked at it, I'm like, "There's a lot of levers on that." It's like, "I'll just bring you mine, bro. We'll do it. We'll do it with mine. It's way easier." Which we did, and it worked great. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
it's kind
it.
of like that Porter cable one has other functionalities, but it's just like, just set it up to do the one thing and leave it alone.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're just going to be messing
You're
around
gonna lose
with it.
parts, forget how to set it up.
Yep.
Kind of like, I mean, at that point, then you're in the realm of like the old Woodsmith one that we talked about in a previous episode, where it's just for dovetail. It's just for drawers.
And that's perfect.
Yeah.
You know, and actually, it's funny, I was looking at that Keller one. So we had that because Nancy Hiller was here doing a video series with us. And that was the one she requested, right, John? And if I remember right, that Keller Dovetail Jig just comes with the top template and the bits. And you have to add the plywood base to it and stuff. Mm-hmm. And you could, quite honestly, I'm thinking of like the... our finger joint jig that we made on the show a couple seasons ago, where it had like a hardboard backer on it and you could add some stops. Like, you could really deck that thing out pretty well and it would work really nice. You know, I just screwed on stops and, you know, it works fine, but it's just one of those things, like sometimes simple is better.
Yeah. So anyway, interested to hear anybody's thoughts on what's the point. John, you got anything off the top of your head?
I don't know, all of it.
All.
What's the point?
What are we even doing here?
Yeah. Then the other topic that I had that I think, I'm not even sure how it came to my brain, but it was like the concept of like Freaky Friday woodworking, in the sense that, is there a style of woodworking that you would do almost as like an exchange student? Like, it would just be interesting to try working in this other style for a while, you know, without having to invest in the tools, you know, just to see what it's like. For example, we have a Japanese hand plane that's been kicking around among different people at Woodsmith here. Sort of like a curse, because everybody sees it and thinks that this would be a really cool tool to use, and they mess around with it for a little bit and then they give it away to somebody else. However, you know, like working in the Japanese hand tool tradition would be interesting to try. Like, I can't afford to swap out all of my planes or chisels or saws or shop setups to do that, just to try or to see what it's like. But it would be, in terms of curiosity, interesting to work in.
Yeah. I think that's a very good example, because it would be interesting to switch over to completely Japanese style tools. Not even Japanese, just, you know, Asian style tools. Pole saws, pole planes, stuff like that. I kind of I thought Phil was going to say it'd be interesting to sit there and do Intarsia for a while.
Right.
I thought that's where he was going.
Really just change it up.
Yeah.
You know, a whole different direction.
Just clean break.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, not necessarily. I guess I could see how somebody would be like, oh, how cool would it be to be able to like have or work in a shop with all of the best tools. Like,
sure.
I mean, it would be cool to step into a shop that has all like Feldler stuff, like big sliding table saws, big huge like that would be cool just to see how it works. But I have no desire to do that. I have kind of started to do this a little bit inadvertently, and I know my wife doesn't listen to this podcast, so I could say this. I've started to I've started to kind of add a bunch of English style hand tools to my tool cabinet, mainly infill style planes. And they're completely different. I mean, just using them is completely different than using like my Lee Nielsen or a Stanley style plane. I like it. I really like it. So it's kind of interesting, and it would be kind of fun. And I think I've probably mentioned this to you, Phil. I've played around with the idea of just selling all my like traditional style planes, my traditional being the Stanley style, and going to straight infills. Like I would only need 3 or 4 of them,
right,
to have everything I would need. Just that style and working with those planes instead of what I have would be super interesting. I mean, it wouldn't really change my process necessarily, but it would be more of a the technique and the way I approached work would be a little different, I think.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is to have that, like I said, whether it's just a full-on switch or whatever. I would like to think that I could do more hand tool skills, and I think some of it is just biting the bullet and doing it versus it's really easy to resaw this board with my bandsaw.
Yeah, well, yeah, and there's a point where it's like, yeah.
However, on the flip side, I would also enjoy, kind of like what you said, is being part of somebody who does a bunch of, has really top of the line machines.
Yeah.
And does largely power tool work, meaning case good stuff, to work with, somebody that does a lot of stuff with a track saw and a domino joiner and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, completely different approach to the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've seen several videos on YouTube of like European custom furniture, or not necessarily custom, but just high-end furniture companies, and to see the processes that they use. And they use tools that are not practical in my shop at all. Like even one of our former coworkers, Kent Welsh, runs a furniture making business, and he found like a Felder, I think it's a Felder, like 5-in-1 sliding table saw. So it's got the table saw and a spindle molder and joiner planer and whatever else goes with it. But like I just feel like a sliding table saw would be super cool to use on a daily basis in terms of its functionality and whatever. So
yeah, I think from a content standpoint, so project content, I think it would be fun to spend a couple of weeks or months or whatever. Let's call it a retreat. Isn't that what you're supposed to have? Like you're supposed to have like a midlife crisis retreat, right?
There you go.
Like
sabbatical.
Yeah, sabbatical. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. So to do a sabbatical with somebody that does strictly green woodworking.
Okay.
Just because like it's something I'm interested in, something I would like to do, and I mean I deal with a lot of green wood, but it's not from a like using it standpoint. So I think that'd be kind of interesting to there's people that will build furniture straight from green wood, which is kind of interesting to me, and it's interesting how they are able to do that without stuff moving and breaking. It's same way with some of the chair makers. Like it'd be really cool to go just hang out for a couple months with somebody that does Windsor chairs, and that's it. Like that would be kind of fun.
Okay, that's fair. John?
Sometimes I wonder if it would be easier just to like up and just switch all to metric. You know, just get nutty.
Here. I agree.
Move to Canada but it's like it's a total retooling because like all your drill bits and router bits are, you know, on the inch and all that stuff. So it's like just all the different tools.
Just
so
swap
it's just
it out.
not practical here.
Yeah,
because
it's like your chisels.
Yeah.
Other than hand saws, it's switching everything.
Mm-hmm. And do they make a metric dado blade set? Like, is that a thing?
I'm sure it is.
I don't know.
I don't know. That would be.
Am I making this up?
Yes.
Or okay, that's fair. I vaguely recall somebody saying that dado blades were not able to be sold in the UK.
Oh, maybe that does sound like.
Did I make that up, or is that correct?
No, I think
It
that's
sounds
correct.
legit.
I think the arbor on European table saws is actually too short to fit a dado blade.
That's smart. Probably for safety reasons, or
Yeah, because you can't use, like, you can't put a splitter or a riving knife with a dado blade. Is the big thing.
okay. But why would you? I mean, are you through cutting with a dado blade? So it's like, why would you need one?
Yeah,
I mean, I
there
have,
was something,
but
and also because like a lot of table saws have the blade guard as part of a splitter, and you can't
you'd have to remove the
blade guard, and then that was one of the big
blade.
things
Okay,
too.
so using a dado blade is prohibited by EN and IEC standards. Therefore, this is not offered in the European market.
Sure.
It would be great if any of our out-of-country listeners can weigh in on this. Dado blades are illegal to sell or buy in some countries, such as Denmark, due to the danger. I'm shook now. I don't think I can.
So is there like a black market?
Maybe we could make a killing selling all over dado blades here over in Europe.
Right. Yeah. woodsmithdadoblades.darkweb.com.
Well, it's kind of interesting. This is kind of on a little tangent, but like the different European safety standards are interesting to me. When I was at AWFS back in July, I was having breakfast with some of the folk from Technatool, which makes like the Nova line lathes and stuff like that. And they have a new lathe that they're working on. It's not out yet, but they have a new lathe that they are working on that is designed for the European market. I'm like, okay, what do you mean? Like, that's weird. And they're like, well, in Europe as a whole, I'm not one particular country, but in Europe, there are different safety standards and there are different quality standards that are necessary in a power tool, and that's where they were targeting. So they're going to offer the same lathe in the U.S. It just was like they're designing and building this lathe based on the European safety standards and European quality standards.
Sure.
Which is super interesting to me. It's like,
yeah,
we just got a new planer in yesterday from Laguna, and Laguna is, I believe, a German company.
I was going to guess French.
Would you?
Laguna. Yeah,
Laguna? Maybe.
It's French for the Guna.
Maybe. I only know this because I guess I'm only assuming that they're German because I'm pretty sure the guy I met at AWFS, his name's Benny. I'm pretty sure his dad is like the CEO, and Benny is 100% German. From Germany. So, kind of. Hold on. Anyways, when we unboxed this planer yesterday, it's very well put together. I was pretty impressed with it. So, I don't know.
It looked really cool. Yeah. I don't know if it was because it was all like matte black and just it looked really fast.
Maybe that might be what it is.
Looked cool, like a sports car.
Yeah,
but
that's funny. So Maybe Laguna's based in Texas? Yeah, I might be wrong.
Paris, Texas.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Dusseldorf, Texas.
Yes.
So German engineering with Texas know-how.
So here's what it is. Sorry. I'm kind of reading their deal right now. There are ties to Denmark and Roblin machinery, which is in the UK, or not UK, in Europe. And I think Laguna's kind of like the love child of those. So there's European ties. It's not based in Germany. Okay. I was wrong. Mark this date down. Yep. 108.
Yep. This is how we fact check on the fly.
Yep.
With apologies to anybody from Laguna.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll let us know.
We still love your tools.
Yeah. It's quiet. That was the biggest surprise to me. So this planer is a 20-inch planer. It's a PX20. It's a 20-inch planer, helical head with a 5-horse, 230-volt single-phase motor. Our previous planer, which is still in the shop, is a 15-inch Powermatic with a 2-horse motor, maybe a 3-horse motor. It's either a 2 or 3 horse.
That was 220 also.
It was 220 also. And the Laguna is probably half as loud as the Powermatic. Now, that Powermatic has a lot of miles on it.
Sure.
So some bearings maybe getting a little loose and stuff, but pretty impressed with it. So I'm going to do some tool reviews on it, do some projects with it. So we'll see how she goes.
And it's interesting to see Laguna's design aesthetic change over the years, because their current line of tools, whether it's that planer or their dust collector systems, even their bandsaws, have gone with a much more contemporary, streamlined look to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because what year would that Laguna bandsaw in the shop be from?
That other one 90s? That we have? Yeah, probably late 90s or early 2000s, maybe. Mm-hmm. And the ones they have now are, better looking. I think they perform really well too. So it's not going just on appearance, but there is industrial design that relates to how it performs too. So, but it's interesting to see that they've made a clean break with kind of the established look of certain woodworking tools.
Mm-hmm.
It's like almost any large format planer looks very similar, and it all relates to cast iron castings from the 1920s kind of look to it, which have their own appeal, but to step away from that, I think, is kind of an interesting choice. All right.
Sorry. Joe's just browsing the Laguna's tools offering on there.
I popped over to their
Clicks
website too.
Add to cart.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, anyway, one of my Christmas presents arrived late this year, and it was it's Matt Kenny's new book, Build Better Boxes, which I've kind of been a fan of Matt Kenny. He's been on the show before, and he's found his niche in making boxes.
Mm-hmm.
He also wrote a book on Kumiko, which I think we had him on the show for.
Yep.
But I really like his style. Like he's been very deliberate in developing that style, and it's just kind of interesting whether I would build boxes of his scale or not. I learned something from it, and it's really fun to see a book like that come out. Because there's other woodworking project books, no offense to anybody, where it just feels like they're just trying to fill pages with the projects, and they're kind of random and in a get it done kind of way. And I like Matt's this particular book because of how he how he develops and explains his style through the techniques that he uses.
Yeah. You know, one thing I like about Matt's boxes that he does a very good job of subtleness of certain design elements. So
sure.
Whether it's a pop of color here or there,
right,
or a liner or a shadow line that is simply created by a chamfer. I mean, he does a very nice job of bringing subtle design elements into a very simple project.
Right.
Which I think is pretty cool.
And he, we struggle with this too when it comes to designing boxes that we do in the magazine, is getting the scale right.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's really easy to make a box out of just about anything that you have lying around. But if you make a small box out of 3/4 inch material, it's going to feel clunky, no matter how tight the miters are or how well fit the lid is or something like that. But Matt has really been thoughtful in how he works with scale, in terms of if your box is going to be this small, then pieces aren't going to be thicker than 3/8 of an inch, so he's working on a much finer scale.
Yeah.
Which translates up, if you make a bigger piece, then, different parts or components need to be wider or narrower or whatever to make that scale look right.
Yeah. Plus, he has a great beard, so come on.
He's got it all.
He's got it all.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just like looking at Matt's website, I mean, even his Kumiko panels he does, just good, subtle pops of color. Like, and they're well thought out. And this one I'm looking at right now looks like it has pins in it, holding the frame together. And the pins aren't painted, but the rest of the frame is. Great little detail. So just well thought out.
Which brings me to a point to wrap up today's show, is because the three of us work in woodworking as our day job, in addition to practicing it as a hobby, what kind of resources do you guys, do you guys buy project books, for plan ideas or project ideas, or just as a library of whatever, like I have a book that there's another guy Matt Berger used to work at Fine Woodworking, and I think he's in the tech industry out in California, and he did a book on making skateboards. And I don't know that I would ever build a skateboard, but I bought the book because of, his use of veneers and shaping odd-shaped components and working within a style and stuff like that. That was just inspiring to me, and I was able, and I still flip through that book from time to time, for different, inspiration, I guess. Just to keep repeating the same word.
See, I guess I've never bought a book. Like, I buy woodworking books, but I've never bought a book with the intent to build what's in the book.
Right.
I more buy the book, like you said, for the technique, for the thought behind it. I've bought a lot of woodworking books simply because I know the authors, or I've followed their work closely for years, and it's more of just the supporting them. And Phil, you and I have talked about this before. There's a lot of, it seems like everybody who's been in the woodworking publishing industry has written a book at some point. You know what I mean?
Sure.
There's a lot of woodworking books floating around out there. They sometimes, as you say, feel like they're just trying to fill the page. But then there's well thought out books that show thoughtfulness and craftsmanship behind the pages, if that makes sense. So, like Matt's book, some of his, some of the key points that I would take away from that book have nothing to do with boxes. Even though that may be the focus of the book, which I think I think most people who write these type of books would be happy to hear.
Sure.
One of them I bought recently was a book. It was about a turner that passed away a number of years ago. That kind of started the studio movement in turning. So, getting turning pieces into the studio, the art studio and stuff. And I bought it more as a inspirational kind of coffee table style book. More of a look at the pretty pictures instead of necessarily read the words.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I gain more out of woodworking books than I do project ideas. Most of my project ideas tend to come from necessity or something cool I saw in an antique store, or if I have a random idea. Google's my favorite place to go look for different designs and stuff like that. I tend to go towards the books more for aspirational type stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I haven't gotten any books lately just because we have so much resources around here in our library and archives and stuff. But yeah, before I worked here, and that was pre-YouTube and Google days, so I used to get all the magazines and books and get ideas from those and whatnot. And yeah, like what you said too, of just there's no intention of building the exact projects that are in there, but just get kind of ideas and techniques and kind of inspiration.
Cool. Yeah, if anybody else, readers or viewers and listeners, have any books or resources that they've turned to, whether it's a book, magazine, website, Instagram account, whatever, if you want to share it in the comments, we'd love to see it. Otherwise, I think that'll wrap up today's episode of the Shop Notes Podcast. Thanks for listening and joining us in our 100th episode celebration. If you have any questions, comments, or smart remarks, you can leave them in the comments section on our YouTube channel, or you can email us, woodsmith@woodsmith.com. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Bye. This episode of the Shop Notes Podcast is brought to you by Woodsmith Plans. You'll find nearly 1,000 plans covering everything that you'd want to build, from furniture projects to gift projects, kitchen accessories, workshop projects and jigs, and more. Find your next project at woodsmithplans.com.